Welcome back, guys. I have another prop tutorial for you guys. I seen this going around the internet, and it's posable tendrils for either your superior Venom or your Venom figure, or sometimes even Carnage figures. I'm gonna show you guys how to do this quick and easy prop tutorial. I hope you guys enjoy this, and let's just get into it. Alright, so let's get started with this, guys. I'm gonna use the black Twisty Ties that I have because this is gonna be for Venom and superior Venom. So if the plasti dip does get damaged or worn down after a while of using it, the undercoat would be black, so it's not going to have a big amount of difference when I start taking photos of the figures with it. If you do use the clear or silver ones, you know, if the plasti dip does come off, you're going to have to touch it back up and give it another dip. So just to make it easier on you guys, if you do have the black Twisty Ties, I like using those better. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to open up the plasti dip, and like I said, make sure you're in a well ventilated area, and make sure you follow the instructions on the back of the plasti dip because this stuff really does have strong fumes. Alright, so the first thing that we're going to need for this is some Twisty Ties, or you could even use some thick floral wire, but this is the cheapest alternative if you already have some, especially if you've been collecting for a while. You probably have some Twisty Ties from old packaging, from action figures. Also, you could find twist ties, you know, when you get appliances, or if your wife gets a hair dryer or something, they usually have twisty ties on them. So other than that, the other main thing that we'll need is plasti dip. This is what's going to coat your wire or your twist ties to make the tendrils. I did get the black because, like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, this is going to be for either a Venom figure or my superior Venom figure. I do want to note on the back of this, you can get them in a couple different colors. You could get them in yellow, red, blue, and black. So if you have a Carnage figure, you could get it red, and then you can make some red tendrils. But before I actually show you guys the process of how to do this, I want to show you my setup of what I put together, so it makes it a little bit easier for the drying time to go by, a lot cleaner and a lot smoother. So I'm going to show you guys that step first, and then we're going to get back to this. What I like to do to prepare for when I make tendrils, I like to grab clothespins. I like to grab these little hair ties, the clear plastic ones that I used in my first prop tutorial, which was the trash bags. I'll leave a link for that if you guys are interested. But basically, I just get the clothespins, and then I get the small clear tie, and I wrap it around the front part of it to just make sure when I have the tendrils drying, they're on there pretty secure. It just tightens the grip on that. I'm going to zoom out, and then I'll show you the next step that I put it together with a wire kind of setup so you guys can see how I hang them. So I'm going to cut to that right now. So as you guys can see, I already did two of them right here with the bands on them already. I have the third one in my hand. I like to point out that I'm using a small piece of wire to keep them separated. So what I like doing is, see if they'll pick up on camera with the lights on. I grab this white thin wire, and I like to thread it right through the spring, the hole where the spring is for the clothespin. And I go down to where I want it, and I loop it back around into the hole so it doesn't slide around and touch the other tendrils while it's hanging. Let's see if I could do this on camera for you guys. I just pull it tight. So this way it doesn't slide around. They stay evenly apart. And then I like to tie the ends to a coat hanger. And then that's how I hang it outside, or sometimes I hang it in the bathroom depending how strong the fumes are and if I have good ventilation. And that's another thing to point out. The plasti dip does really have some harsh fumes, so if you don't have a respirator, make sure your windows are open, your doors open, or you do it outside. Other than that, I would like to point out too, to use gloves. I'll leave a picture of the gloves I like using at the end of the video. I really enjoy the gloves because they're thick and the fingertips are textured, so it's not really troublesome to pick things up, especially small things like the twist ties. So I'll leave that at the end. So from this point, we're just going to move on into the project and actually dip in our wire or our twisty ties into the plasti dip. So I'll cut to that right now. So here we are with the plasti dip open. I do want to point out one more thing too. If you're going to be dipping twist ties or wire in here, if you want to make it easier on yourself, you will come out with shorter tendrils, but it does make it easier on you. If you measure out how long your wire or your twisty tie is, so you don't have to dip one side, because if it's too long you'll dip one side and then you have to flip it over, or wait for it to dry and then flip it over and then dip the other side. So this way, if you do get the right length of the can that you have, you're doing one dip at a time and waiting for it to dry, instead of dipping it one side, waiting for it to dry, and then dip the next side. I just wanted to point that out, a really quick tip for you guys. So basically all we're doing is dipping our wire or twisty ties in there and then taking it out. And I am working over a piece of parchment paper just in case I do spill anything, but you could do it over newspaper. And then I have our clothespins with the rubber bands on them next to me right now, and I'm just going to clip this one on there. So let me adjust that. Make sure it's not touching anything it shouldn't be touching. As you can see, I'm going to try to bring it in frame for you guys. It is holding it fairly tight. And then we're going to wait for this to dry, but I also want to point out, don't leave your can of your Plasti Dip open, because it will dry and have a hard coat over it. So you want to make sure you are using it wisely and closing it up while you're waiting for everything to dry. So I'm going to dip 3 of these in there, and then I'm going to come back and show you guys the first time it's dried. And you're going to want to dip them a couple times, actually. You're going to want to dip them about 3 or 4 times to get a good coat over it. If you do want thicker tendrils, you're going to have to dip it more times. But if you use a thicker wire, you could dip it maybe 3 times and get the same effect instead of dipping it like 5 or 6 times. Alright, so I'm going to dip the rest of these and then come back and show you guys the first layer. Alright, while those start drying, I just want to point out I grabbed some of the extra twisty ties I had and just twisted them together in a random formation to kind of make just a spread out kind of tendril look. These come out pretty good too. I just want to show you guys this technique's very versatile. I also put some extra ones just hanging off to the side, so when it gets dipped it has extra tendrils coming out. They do wobble a little bit, but as soon as you get the Plasti Dip on there and it's dry, it's going to secure it really good. So like I said, you could just make different shapes and stuff like that and then dip them and then make unique tendrils for yourself. You don't have to make a straight tendril. Alright, so I'm going to dip this one and then I'm going to come back with all of them already dried with the first coat so you guys can see how thin the layer is and how many times I actually dip my tendrils. Alright, we're back. It's been 30 minutes like the packaging says. Wait 30 minutes after every coat. Here's the twisted up one. This is how it came out. This is the first coat on it. I'm probably going to do another 2 coats on it. Same thing with the other ones. Here it is. I'm actually going to zoom in for you guys so you guys can see it a little bit better. As you can see with the first coat, it still has the shape of the bendy wire. It's still, because the bendy wire is kind of flat. So I am going to do another 2 coats on this to get it nice and rounded out. Because if you only leave 1 coat, it's going to still, you're going to tell it's wire. So if you don't use rounded wire and you do use the twisty ties and they are flat, you're going to want to do a couple coats on there. Even with the regular wire, you just want to do a couple coats just to make sure when you're using it and bending it a lot that none of it comes off. And then I do want to note and say, after you do your coats, it's 30 minutes for each coat to dry. So after that, you would want to wait at least 4 hours, if not longer, before you start bending it around and posing it, because you can rip through the Plasti Dip. So I just want to point that out. I'm going to finish coating these. I'm going to do, like I said, another 2 or 3 coats on each of these, and I'm going to come back and show you guys when they're all dry and posable and bendable, so you guys can see what kind of range of motion you guys get with these. Alright, here they are, all done. On the top I have the 2 straight ones that we made. The modified one I made with the extra tendrils on the side, and then I made one more earlier which has a hand loop on the back of it, so I could take my superior Venom and I could stick his hand through there and you could have a tendril looped around and posed with it. Pretty cool. And as for posability, they pose pretty well. You could get a lot of range of motion through them, and they bend back to their original spot easily. They could bend the opposite way easily. You could twist them, bend them. You could really do a lot of things with them. They're really durable. Same thing with these ones. You could bend each of these individually, and like I said, there's no wobble anymore because the Plasti Dip covered it up and made that into a joint. You can really bend this around any way you want. And since I did do about 3 or 4 coats on this, there's no chance of the wire really popping out too much. Same thing with these ones. These ones, you can wrap them around, loop them through themselves. They're just really, really posable, really durable. I like these a lot. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. And as always, guys, if you like the tutorial, don't forget to leave a like, a comment, and hit that sexy subscribe button.